welcome to another edition of Radical Grace Radio.
I'm Pastor Gary Held.
My name is Matthew Pancake, and this is episode 831. And it turns out that, we're going to have to discuss a very serious subject whenever we get to the back half today. I don't know, Pastor, would you be the one that would want to, tell everyone what it is that we have to talk about on the other side of the break?
It's hard to describe. It's painful to describe. No, it's not painful. But I didn't have a word for it until we had a class last night, our new member adult instruction class. And in that class, somebody coined a term for what I was talking about, and I thought it was clever. The term Framptonology.
And in a way, and the thing, say that again. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Framptonology. Now, it was interesting that whenever you mentioned that, you said, "Have you ever heard of it?" And I said, "Pretend that I haven't." And you were looking at me like it was funny. You said, "Well, it depends on what I think I heard."
Right.
because Framptonology. So. But the thing about it is hang on, we're not going to describe it right now. We're going to do it on the other side of the break. But this is a program where, the gospel is, I hope that what we wind up doing is we let the gospel basically collar everything we're doing on the show. Even when we're doing the news roll, we're thinking of it with the mind of Christ. Each one of these different stories that comes up, we're not just going to say the same things that everybody else has to say. Oh, we might. You never know. But, we have different opinions because, we have different opinions about a lot of things that people think that they understand. Yeah.
We're going to try and give these things a fair shake. I mean, it's like, okay, sure, I have my opinion, but I can also try to see it from somebody else's side. So at least there's that.
So at least there is. Although some of these things are, the Satanic Temple's back in the news again. So, but that, and I gave that one to you.
Gotta love me some
fun.
Yeah.
So let's do that thing sometimes we call the Christian News Roll. Former President Donald Trump has been indicted by the federal grand jury on charges of conspiring to steal the 2020 presidential election from President Joe Biden. The indictment also includes Trump's alleged role in inciting and encouraging the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Special counsel Jack Smith from the U.S. Department of Justice describes the January 6th attack as, quote, an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy, fueled by lies propagated by Trump to obstruct the election process. The indictment brings 4 counts against Trump, including conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, attempting to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Oh, okay. The Trump campaign denies the charges, dismisses them as fake, and suggests that they are an attempt to hinder Trump's potential 2024 presidential run. Prosecutors argue that Trump knowingly spread false claims about the election being stolen, deliberately stoking mistrust and anger to erode public faith in the election administration. According to the indictment, Trump and 6 unnamed co-conspirators, it's always fun when these things have unnamed co-conspirators, allegedly deployed fake electors to states won by Biden, falsely declaring Trump the winner. Trump is also accused of intentionally deceiving his supporters and encouraging them to storm the Capitol, aiming to prevent lawmakers and Vice President Mike Pence from accepting the certification of the electoral votes. I'm just going to, there's more to read there, but I'm just going to stop because, we'll see how this pans out.
Yeah, we'll come back to that story, circle back later. So the number 4 story is that a city in Idaho has agreed to pay $300,000 settlement for following an incident where a group of Christians were arrested for singing hymns outdoors during the COVID-19 lockdowns, and they were singing these as an act of protest. So Gabriel Wrench and other members of his group filed a lawsuit against the city of Moscow, Idaho, and its employees after his group gathered at City Hall in September of 2020. To avoid a potentially lengthy legal battle, the city's insurer provider decided that they would agree to pay the agreed upon settlement amount. So the agreement requires the insurer to pay $300,000, and then all the claims against the city and its employees will be dismissed. Gabriel Wrench, the plaintiff, expressed relief at the resolution, but he raised concerns about the high cost to taxpayers. He accused the city of consistent religious discrimination against his church and fellow Christians, and the arrests occurred during a psalm sing protest, which drew nationwide attention, and the church later proved that the event was constitutionally protected. Earlier, a judge had ordered a settlement conference between the parties and recognizing the wrongful arrests and misinterpretation of the city's own code by its officials. So,
part of what I left out of there was they were also arrested because they weren't wearing masks while they were singing outdoors. There was a lot of that weirdness went on during COVID. It feels like it's almost like 1,000 years ago now.
Well,
the COVID thing
doesn't feel 1,000 years to me, but it's time. The calendar page has turned. So
yeah, it sure has. Okay, so the number 3 story: over the past 2 decades, belief in religious entities among Americans, I'll explain that in a second, has significantly declined, reaching the lowest levels ever recorded, according to recent data from Gallup. The survey, conducted May 2023 among 1,011 adults, revealed that while a majority still believe in God, angels, heaven and hell, and the devil, all these beliefs have experienced a noticeable drop in popularity. In 2001, belief in God stood at 90%, but it is now decreased to 74%. And belief in heaven has declined from 83 to 67% during the same period. Surprisingly, this is why I thought that it was fun, belief in the devil experienced the smallest decrease, from 68 to 58%. Overall, the trend shows that belief in God and heaven has seen the steepest decline, with more respondents embracing non-belief and uncertainty. The survey also uncovered other patterns that are kind of interesting from demographic groups. Those who attend church frequently and identify as Republicans are more likely to believe in, God and heaven and stuff like that. Protestants also show stronger beliefs compared to Catholics. That comes up a lot. That's kind of strange. Additionally, adults aged 55 and older exhibit the highest belief levels, while 18 to 34-year-olds show a weaker belief, especially in the devil, where less than half express belief. Women were found to be more likely than men to believe in each entity, but an equal share of both genders, 58%, express belief in the devil. These findings shed light on the changing religious landscape in America. I think that's, how do you interpret this? Do you interpret it as a downswing, or is there something like, something that you could take from that might be a good sign? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know for sure.
We'll let's come back to it. The number 2 story is that a federal judge dismissed a lawsuit against the city of Boston brought by the Satanic Temple.
I'm starting to feel bad for these guys. They're collecting L's left and right.
Just one. Yep. The case was in response to the city council's refusal to grant the group's request to deliver an invocation. Imagine what that invocation would be like at a recent weekly meeting of the council. So U.S. District Court Judge Angel Kelly ruled the city councilor's discretion in selection of invocation speakers was exercised without discrimination based on religious beliefs. According to reports, the Satanic Temple had alleged that rejecting their request violated the Establishment Clause of the United States Constitution. However, Judge Kelly has stated that no significant proof exists to support this claim. It was highlighted in the ruling that the city council's main priority when choosing invocation speakers has always been their involvement in the community rather than their religious beliefs. There is a long-standing legal dispute between the Satanic Temple and the city of Boston, which became more intense during the group's yearly, get this, SatanCon, an event that was held in downtown Boston. Okay, I've never heard of that before. At the event, the leaders of the Satanic Temple dedicated the gathering to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. They accused her of violating the Constitution by preventing them from using public spaces. This caused a lot of media interest, especially when the Satanic Temple leaders tore up a Bible and an American flag in protest against what they say are symbols of oppression. Despite all this controversy, the court's ruling was upheld by the city council's right to exercise discretion in selecting invocation speakers, and it highlights the importance of promoting a diverse range of religious views in civic spaces. Okay, that's a kind of a okay.
And they, who
This
knows
diverse,
Now, actually, you have heard of SatanCon because we talked about their cosplay because people show up to SatanCon in costume.
I don't remember us talking about it.
They do, and it was a thing because it wasn't that long ago. It was just insanity.
Well, here's
I don't know if you
oh
count
boy,
that
in costume. Here's another witch. Here's another devil. What else you got?
Yeah, well, it was like a Halloween convention because they say they don't believe in anything. So I'm trying to figure out what they would invoke at their invocation.
Well, that's that actually, yeah.
That's a problem. Okay, anyway, so the number one story isn't so much as a number one story, but it's like the number one trend because although I'm like being a little I'm tongue in cheek here, it's an ongoing problem. And it's kind of the main reason that I never started doing sermon reviews. Once in a while, people say, how come you don't do sermon reviews? I think I'll point to this trend.
Because there are other podcasters and YouTubers
who do it and probably do it better than I would. But
okay.
Although it's generally not known, evangelicalism has an annual rite where megachurches and even little churches engage in what I like to call summer movie madness. For instance, this past Sunday, Saddleback Church and other churches, other megachurches, turned everything pink to feature a Barbie-themed Sunday service with matching merch and sermon, including family photo shoots with Barbie-themed backdrops, as well as changing all the decor of the church, kind of like when we changed pyramids, they just changed everything. And of course, the dolls themselves were there. So that's a thing that these churches do, for some. But if you also look online, you'll find that there are a fair number of churches that rather than celebrating Barbie fandom or whatever it was they were celebrating, were instead condemning the movie as demonic and evil. For instance, Tennessee-based pastor Kent Christmas, which you said that's an interesting last name, said this: I curse in the name of the Lord this new Barbie movie, which has been released full of transsexuals, transgender, and homosexuality. Now, those are modern talking points, right? That's what you would expect in 2023. However, Pastor Ivan Tuttle, this is like as extreme as it gets. He's from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and he said in his quote-unquote sermon, do not take your child to the new Barbie film. It's full of demonic influences. Do not be surprised if your child suddenly starts to behave differently. The Lord showed me the millions of demons that will be released on your children. Don't take this lightly. They're coming for your children. Now, you could do some further digging online to see if there are more comments like that, but Pastor Christmas's comments are currently sucking all the air out of the digital room as far as that goes, and that's what I'm going to call the Christian News Roll. We have a church in the United States that is so extreme in both directions. It's like, hey, we're going to play the Barbie movie, bring your kids, have your thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know which one disturbs me more, although, it kind of sounds like this Pastor Ivan Tuttle, talking about how the demons are going to take possession of your children. He seems
Millions.
to want to follow up one summer movie with a reboot of the Exorcist franchise. You're going to have kids with their heads spinning around on their necks and everything and levitating. Okay. So, I just want you to think about this, listener. I'm not trying to say, he's a joke, there's nothing to this or anything like that. But what I am trying to get you to be warned about is that if you were to be sitting regularly in his church, how many other things is he going to harangue you about on a weekly basis? Don't watch this Netflix show. Don't shop at this store. Don't wear these sneakers, because there's something that is going to be attacking you spiritually. And, if you let a person like that start telling you how to manage your whole life, well, what kind of life is that? Just like, no, that's not your job, man. Your job ought to be to tell us about Jesus. And I guess he would say, well, but telling people about Jesus also entails protecting them from evil influences. Okay, that's fair, but there are probably greater evil influences in this world than a Barbie movie. It could even, I'm sure I don't know what it is. I haven't seen the movie. I don't intend to see the movie.
And it's not super successful. It's successful in the context of post-COVID, but the numbers aren't that big.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's getting a lot of publicity from churches going both directions because,
Yeah. The whole, I mean, like I say, I don't know which one disturbs me more. That's a guy, he's trying to be an extremist and, well, he's succeeding. And I'm not saying that he's putting it on. He might be absolutely feeling that, the Lord revealed to me that there's millions of demons that are going to, be using this film as a media for their terrible influences. But then you got the other, and I think that is like going overboard. But then you got Saddleback Church, which, you say what you want about Rick Warren. I don't think that would have been something he would have sat well with. Maybe the idea came from him. I don't know. But, let's be culturally relevant by doing up the whole church in pink with a Barbie theme. I mean, when we do up the whole, okay, so when we do up the whole church in our churches in, say, purple, when do we typically do that?
Yeah, there's a church calendar that we do a round robin of changing of colors and paraments and stuff like that. It just,
and the theme reflects something that's serious.
Yeah, I was going to say that it points to something besides Barbie.
Something, yeah. I mean, it is something that's culturally relevant because the church has embodied this cultural aspect of, here's a yearly time of repentance. Here's when we go through a regular and ongoing reflection of who we are and what God has done for us. Mm-hmm. And well, with all the things that go with that. But what are you going to do? So what are you going to do, Saddleback? The next installment pretend of the Terminator franchise comes out.
No, you got to do Oppenheimer.
Well, it's coming out at the same time as the Barbie thing, so they had the choice of going with that.
But they could still go with Oppenheimer. They should do that. They should do Oppenheimer themed church service.
Well, no? I mean, if you want something really apocalyptic, I guess that would be okay. Go. Okay, I mean, I don't know. I just have a lot of I just can't see this whole. They got all the stuff with the decorating and the presumably it influenced the message. Oh my God, it influenced the message and the merch. I mean, I'm used to YouTubers saying, visit our store, look at our merch, buy the things. That's not what a
No, they
church
do
is.
that. No, you can go over to any of these like Calvary Chapel and whatnot. They have a gift shop and they have a food court, and I mean that's what Saddleback's known for. I mean,
Yeah.
Saddleback has multiple venues and they're all themed differently.
Okay,
They
but
can change out the themes all the time. I mean, at one point, one of the issues that was coming up is like I didn't even know what to do with this. It's like I think we might have talked about it on the show at one point, but they had one that had a Hawaiian theme and another one that had a rock and roll theme, and you could choose which venue you wanted to go to. They were going to pipe Warren into all of them regardless. So on a big screen, there's your pastor. So it's not too unusual. It's
do
just
they have a
but
wine
some
and
of these churches
cheese theme? You know,
maybe. I mean, maybe they have an upscale side, where it's got like red carpet and opulent, very beautiful looking facade, and maybe they expect the tithes to be a little larger because of the
give
people that
debt
go there.
generously because this caviar is expensive.
Yeah.
Okay. So, now, but obviously not really nice. That's a little bit of trolling on my part. Speaking of trolling, so back to the Satanic Temple, the same thing I keep saying every time over and over. Now at some point though, they are, they're going to keep making their lawsuit presence in court until I suppose until they finally get some sympathetic judge. I don't know, but right now, so here's the deal is that if the Boston City Council had said you cannot be giving the invocation because of what your religious beliefs are, if that was the exact reason they gave, well then this judge seems to be saying, yeah, that probably is crossing the line, but they have other reasons why they can say, you're not. The biggest one that they actually gave was that we're looking for groups to give the invocation, irrespective of their beliefs, that actually have some community involvement. What do you want to bet the Satanic Temple does not, pitch in on community involvement type activities?
They have
Huh?
Satan Con.
They have Satan Con. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding me again.
I mean, Satan Con. So, just dress up as your favorite non-existent deity and, come and we'll evoke, the unknown non-existent God. Or whoever, something for fun. Because
exactly. What are they going to invoke? I mean, to invoke is to call upon, and in a sense, this is maybe not what Christians mean by invocation, but there is a way in which you are calling on the name of, in our case, like our Christian churches, our deity, our God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And in calling on his name and beginning in his name, we can be thought of as invoking that presence to be with us, so that we're not just doing this all on our own steam.
Right.
What what are they going to invoke for the city council? That they want to have this for them, it's an imaginary entity be present at the council proceedings, or at least have people mindful during the council proceedings. I don't know. That's why I say it doesn't seem like I can think of any way that this could be a serious approach to anything. Therefore, I'm putting it in the category of trolling. Therefore, the city council could say, we're not obligated to recognize people who want to troll the city council. Right. Because that's what it would be. So,
I mean, I could pick up and put a feather in my cap and walk in and say, I want to do the invocation today. And just, do an ode to a small lump of green putty I found under my armpit one afternoon.
Well, I thought with a feather in your cap, you'd be invoking the macaroni, but I don't know.
I could do that as
Okay.
well. I could call it macaroni. That would work. But it's just, you know, they'd have to accept it if it was like anybody that's got a the what's this guy the since we're getting close to the January 6th thing anyway. The guy that the Buffalo guy or whatever he is, the guy with all the tattoos and
Yeah.
the hat on. So he could go in and do an invocation of something, because they have to, so, excuse me. I don't even know what the business model for Satanic Temple is. And whenever I say business model, it's like, so people just give them money so that they can haul a statue around the United States of some satanic looking thing petting children or whatever it is that it's doing. And just basically just like, I don't even know what they do other than like Satan Con. I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard that they do something. It's just like it's a club at best.
Yeah, block it out of your mind. I mean, that's what I've done. Obviously, you can remind me, and I've already forgotten about it.
Well, my hope is that they're done collecting L's and they can just go. You know what I mean by that, right? Collecting L's. Just loss after loss after loss. It's like the judges are starting to get to the point where when they see TST in a legal filing, they're handing it off and saying, "Yeah, no, we're not doing this." Some of them, like the one last week, they were told that they're not given liberty to refile. That means they're done. They didn't use the strongest language that they could, but the next strongest language after that is dismissed with prejudice, as in don't bring this before a judge again. And then it goes on the list for everybody that's in the office in the offices of the courthouse. It's on the list that if this comes through again, you're not sending this to the judge. It's not going on a docket.
Right.
Because judges said, no more. We're done.
Well, what do you think about the Gallup poll? You were going to have some observations about the fact that
I don't know how to get observations. That's the thing is, like, I don't know. Like, I guess the fact that people still believe in the devil, they believe in, like, they haven't just, there are some segments of our society that's thrown away the idea of there being like evil. There's just sort of people doing their thing, and it's and maybe that's probably not a good idea. So it's good to see that that's not going down as quickly as everything else. I'm just
one of the things is that this is also a survey that's comparing views over a 2-decade span.
Right.
So, this isn't like it dropped 10% in a year. It's like, well, okay, if we go back to 2003, a lot of people were in a different place in 2003 than they are now. I'm not saying that we should dismiss or be dismissive of these, these declines, because they're indicative of something. But before you say, we got to pull the fire alarms, and well, even then, what would that do? People
I don't know what to. Like, what can you do? There's been other times in American history where the church was, like, you could have called it in decline. There's just not that many people going.
Yeah.
But that changes. It just depends on a lot of different things. One of them is like, some people might try and blame the Holy Spirit. So they say, how come the Spirit's not active and doing the thing? And, of course, then there's a lot of people that blame sin and the devil, for that kind of thing. And rightly so. But one of the things that always catches me off guard in these things is where the beliefs are stronger amongst Protestants than they are Catholics. Like, people identify as Catholics, and there are Catholics that are saying they don't believe in God. They identify as Catholic, but they don't say, is that real? They don't believe in heaven. They don't believe in God. Maybe they don't believe in the devil. Is that real? It always catches me off guard, because you'd think that I wouldn't want to think that there's a future for the Roman Catholic Church where they're like the Satanic Temple. They don't believe in anything.
Yeah. So of all those that, God, heaven, hell, devil, the reason why the decline for the devil was the least is that it already started off the lowest, right? I mean, it was a lower number of people who expressed a belief in an entity, a personal entity, that we called the devil, and so it could still decline, but it was already starting from a lower baseline. So, I
Right.
mean, that's probably the best reason for explaining why its decline was as not as great. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. For the Catholics, I don't understand
Yeah.
how they're arguing that they have a less belief in heaven.
Yeah. Like, is it, I mean, if I were in Roman Catholicism, I would, what I hope isn't happening is that they call up people. I mean, it's 1,100. That's not a huge sample. That people aren't going, they got their phone and going, oh, Gallup? Oh, it's Gallup. It's Gallup. What do we
Uh,
say? We're Catholic. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, do we believe in God? No, we don't
I
believe in
don't think
God.
there's.
I
I
hope that
doubt if
that's
they're
not what's
spoofing them.
happening.
I
I hope
doubt it.
that,
I mean, it's
yeah.
possible, but I doubt it. No,
Okay.
they,
So
they
here's
they
the
are good
thing.
at doing what they do. Gallup is. They're
Yeah.
good. They know how to run a poll, and they know how to make the inferences from their poll at least sort of statistically valid. Whether you can get a whole lot more insight than that. So
hmm Okay. So about Framptonology,
yeah, yep.
it's time to pay up.
Well, okay.
It's time to put
So,
up.
well, I'm gonna still save the explanation for the term for the back half, but again, this kind of fell out of this adult instruction class. And by the way, I'm not saying that I'm doing a brilliant job at teaching it. I am provoking, or I'm trying to provoke questions on people's to come forward with their questions during the class so that we can actually have good discussion. And the other, and I'm using the catechism as a resource, as a tool, and we're going through some things. But I decided to go ahead and hazard an illustration of my own making, and because I kind of believe that I can say what are the sticking points that some people might have with our Lutheran understanding of how God's grace works, but specifically in this case about the sacrament of the altar. That's what it's called in the Luther Small Catechism, the sacrament of the altar. We call that Holy Communion or the Eucharist, all the Lord's Supper. These are all equivalent terms as far as I'm concerned. And well, there's certain questions that are on people's minds, and I was trying to address the questions by giving them something that they could relate to. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay. So once again, we're going to talk about Framptonology when we get back with more Radical Grace Radio in just a moment.